Hey, what's up you guys? I'm Carson Rouse, back with Business Buzz, where we focus on business, entrepreneurship, and investing. Today, I'm going to be talking about Nike stock and whether I believe it is a buy. So Nike's a company that we all know and love, and I'm sure that you even own at least one Nike product. I thought I'd even wear my Nike shirt today in celebration. So Nike is actually one of the largest companies in the United States, and they are a part of the elite S&P 100. Not the S&P 500, the S&P 100. They sell their products all over the world and are the single largest supplier of athletic shoes and apparel, all starting from a humble beginning back in Eugene, Oregon. Nike was actually originally known as Blue Ribbon Sports from their inception in 1964 until 1971 when they became Nike Incorporated. Another cool fact is that the designer of the logo, Carolyn Davidson, was only paid a mere $35 for the design. However, a little bit over a decade later, the founders of Nike were nice enough to give her 500 shares of Nike stock, which she has never sold and is now worth around $1 million. But still, I think this is a good lesson to always take royalties because she could have a lot more money than $1 million. Before we get into the video though, make sure you guys go down and like this video, smack it for me. Let's start with the business model. Most of Nike's revenue is generated through the sale of apparel, footwear, and equipment through the Nike brand. In 2017, footwear accounted for about 60% of Nike's total revenue, with apparel accounting for around 30% and equipment of under 4%. They sell their products within their own Nike retail stores, which they have about 1,200 of worldwide. They also sell their products online and through wholesaling to other retailers. In fact, wholesaling actually accounts for about 68% of their distribution channel, meaning that they do rely on many other retailers to sell their products. They also own many other subsidiaries like Converse, and they also own a lot more brands like, of course, the Jordan brand. However, the Nike brand itself and the brands under it do account for about 95% of the revenue, with Converse and other subsidiaries accounting for the rest. Keep in mind though, Nike does not usually manufacture its own products. In fact, they use independent contractors elsewhere, usually overseas near China. However, many people do believe that the working conditions involved in manufacturing Nike's products and the potential use of child labor is enough to boycott the company, and has definitely stirred up some controversy in the past. However, when it comes down to it, Nike is the king of two things. Number one, marketing, and number two, design. A lot of Nike's revenue goes right back into the company, into the research and development of new designs and footwear, whereas a lot of the other money goes back into good old marketing. Nike has bombarded us with endorsement ads over a long stretch of time now, including with LeBron James, Serena Williams, Michael Jordan, all sorts of high-profile athletes. Keep in mind though, Nike is definitely not without its competitors. They have a lot of competitors: Adidas, Puma, Under Armour, so many to count. However, Nike has shown great resistance to these other competitors over the years through their strong brand power. Nike has great brand power. Now, the retail industry as a whole is pretty shaky and uncertain for the next few years and decades, but considering Nike's brand power and developing online sales, I don't think that their business model should be too tampered in the coming years. But now let's get into some recent news. During the virus, Nike was actually one of the most affected stocks, mostly due to the fact that a lot of their manufacturing and sales take place in China. Their physical retailers in the US as well were practically shut down for weeks, months, and some of them are still shutting down. In fact, management is opening up the locations one by one. They're being very careful, which is responsible, but it could be bad for business. From February 19th to about mid-March, their stock went down $40, which is around 38% drop. It has since recovered though. It is now trading again at around that $100 mark. It's pretty crazy. They went down a lot, but now they're up 60% back to where they were trading at before the whole virus. But unfortunately, this does mean that you guys probably missed out on a great deal with Nike. $60 a share for Nike stock. I would be grabbing them up if I knew more about the company at that time. I really wish I would have done more research about the company. However, I will also mention that Nike, compared to its competitors, their stock has just done way better. I did some comparisons. Their stock is up huge compared to their competitors. Now let's get into the financials and valuation of Nike stock. So the whole reason that Nike stock has done so well compared to their competitors is due to their recent earnings report. They surpassed analyst expectations in both their revenue and earnings per share in the past quarter. They did $10.1 billion in revenue in the last quarter, and that's about $500 million more than analysts were predicting. They also recorded a 78 cents earnings per share, which was considerably higher than analysts had predicted, around 40%. This was mostly due to their insane growth in online sales and their recovering growth in China. Online sales are actually up about 36%, and I'll tell you what, Nike is not missing out on the growing Chinese market. They did around $6.2 billion worth of revenue in China last year, with around a 20% growth in the fiscal year of 2019, better than any other area of the world. China is growing and Nike is not missing out on it. Nike also sports a dividend, believe it or not. They have actually had a 1% dividend for around the past decade. They've maintained that 1% mark pretty well. I will say though, as a young investor with not much capital and dividends meaning a little bit less, I would just rather see them forego giving out a dividend and just putting that money back into the company for more research and growth. I'm not going to sit here and complain about the dividend, but that's just what I'd rather see happen with it. I ran a lot of comparisons with some of Nike's competitors, profitable competitors, such as Lululemon, Adidas, and Steve Madden.
Steve Madden.
After comparing their financials with some of their more profitable competitors, I gotta say Nike stock is just not as attractive as it was before. Other than Lululemon, Nike has the highest trailing and forward PE ratio by a long shot. Their forward PE currently stands at 37. Compare this to Steve Madden's 14 or even Adidas's 28. Its PB or price to book ratio was also an extremely concerning 17.5. By the way, just wanted to mention this, you should definitely check out Steve Madden stock. They have some impressive valuation measures, and they sport a 2.5% dividend yield. Go Steve Madden.
With them. Women's shoes.
Anyway though, what I did find most impressive about Nike though compared to its competitors are its high profit margins. They actually have profit margins over 10%, which is pretty uncommon in their specific industry. They're more so a growth stock after all things considered, but I do appreciate the fact that 62% of their shares are owned by institutional ownership, which always makes me feel more safe about the position that I'm in. So I've talked a lot about Nike stock, but it's time to finally get down to the grit. Is Nike stock a buy? After considering their valuation measures, looking at some recent news, and overall considering their growth for the future, I rate their stock as a hold. However, if you already own the stock, I wouldn't recommend selling because timing up the market is just near impossible and you're just going to be wasting money, potentially paying some in taxes and going through all the fees. I just wouldn't recommend it, so I would hold. Nike is a great company with a great brand and some awesome products under their belt, but just with their current valuation, I wouldn't rate them as a buy. So if you already own their stock, I wouldn't add any more shares, but they're definitely a stock to put on your watch list. I will say, if their stock ever dips as low as it did back in March, down to around that $60 range, you will probably see me buying up a lot of these shares. Really upset that we missed out on this great opportunity, but it's okay, we'll get it next time. Anyway, you guys, I really hope you learned something about Nike stock. Make sure you guys comment down below whether you're going to be investing in Nike stock or not, or whether you're at least going to put it on your watch list. Anyway, please go down and like this video. I put a lot of work into this one. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.